Joining us now is Newt Gingrich. Newt, welcome back.
We got you a cheeseburger, Mr. Speaker.
It's never too early for a cheeseburger, right?
Newt, some breaking news. Fox News has now confirmed the president-elect has selected Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina, as UN ambassador. What do you think of that pick?
Well, I think she's a very, very successful governor. She's a very smart woman, and I think she will be very effective at the United Nations, as effective as any American can be in an organization which has an enormous hostility to our values and to our interests. But I think Nikki Haley will do a very good job, and I think it's part of President-elect Trump's very patient process of building out a team.
Governor Huckabee was a little upset, said she wasn't loyal to him. She wasn't loyal to Donald Trump in the process, said some bad things about him. In the beginning. How do you feel about that?
Look, President-elect Trump has made very clear he wants to be the president of the whole country. He wants to bring people together. That's got to start in the Republican Party. I suspect that's part of why he met with Mitt Romney over the weekend.
Right.
It's certainly, Governor Haley was not, in the general election, anything but supportive. And I think, you know, there were 16 people running. So a lot of folks are going to support somebody else. But you don't want to narrow your base only to people who are loyal, you know, from day one. And I think you'll see other people who weren't necessarily for him at the beginning also getting significant jobs.
Yeah, like Mitt Romney. We wanted to talk to you about that because we were reading this morning that you said there were 20 other people that you could put in front of Mitt Romney to get Secretary of State.
Well, I just think the challenge with Governor Romney is not just what he said about Trump. He was Trump's most vicious and most explicit opponent all through the campaign on the Republican side. And you have to list out all the things he said and think, gee, is this guy really going to be loyal? But also, you know, Governor Romney wanted to be president, not Secretary of State.
Right.
And you have to ask the question, when he goes overseas, is he going to be the Secretary of State for President Trump, or is he going to be Mitt Romney's own Secretary of State? And I would hope that, and again, I will support whoever President-elect Trump picks, because he has the right, I think, as the new president, to build the team he wants to build. But I would suggest there are a lot of other people who are more qualified than Romney in foreign policy and who are also have not been as actively hostile as he's been.
Sure, absolutely. That's an understatement in certain ways. I know when you were on our program earlier, a couple of days ago, you said that you would like to assist the president-elect as like a strategic planner, not an official White House job with cards printed up and stuff like that. But if, as a strategic planner right now, go ahead and make the case for why Mitt Romney would actually help the president-elect.
Well, look, I mean, if as an advocate, not a planner, if President-elect Trump picks Romney, he can make the case that this proves he's going to unify. If he also gets one or two Democrats to join the cabinet, there are steps towards making him a national unity president, which is what he wants to do. I think that's the tone of his interview yesterday at the New York Times. So you can make that case. But I can also tell you that when we met at Trump Tower, Clist and I had a very good meeting with the president-elect on Monday afternoon, and I walked him through why, with 4,100 state legislators and 34 governors, as well as the House, the Senate, and 4,000 political appointees in the executive branch, I think we have an opportunity, if we think strategically, to really put together a Republican government in a way that rivals what Franklin Roosevelt did in the 1930s.
Wow. So on top of that, some other people have said they've put their names in the fray, including David Petraeus. David Petraeus says, if I'm asked, I'll essentially do it. And we also know that Mattis seems to be everybody's pick for Secretary of Defense. Do you want to weigh in?
Well, look, I've known General Mattis for a very long time. He is one of the most talented, most practical senior commanders in the American military in our lifetime. He would be brilliant at anything he did. He's also a total patriot, so I'm confident if President-elect Trump asked him to, that he would serve as Secretary of Defense, and he would do so executing the president's desires. Jim Mattis understands the way the American system works. There's a reason George Washington wanted the president called Commander-in-Chief. Washington had been a Commander-in-Chief, and he thought that for the war to be prosecuted effectively, the guy at the top had to be in charge. And I think that General Mattis thoroughly understands that. I think he'd be a great Secretary of Defense.
Petraeus?
Look, I think General Petraeus has a tremendous record. There are a lot of things he could do well. Certainly, if somebody asked him to be the Director of National Intelligence, he would have an extraordinary range of skills to bring to bear. He understands as a war fighter what we need from the intelligence community. He understands as a former head of the CIA, a large part of the intelligence community from the inside. And he's a very talented, very smart guy.
What did you think of Mr. Trump saying, or President-elect Trump, saying he's not going to pursue charges against Hillary Clinton, especially after, just a few weeks ago, he was saying he's going to lock her up, put her in jail, and a lot of the Trump supporters were screaming and chanting, lock her up. What was your response?
Look, I think it depends on exactly what he meant. I heard Reince Priebus explaining it last night on Bill O'Reilly, the new Chief of Staff and Republican National Committee Chairman. I think it would be as wrong for a President of the United States to say we're not going to enforce the law against somebody as it would be for the President of the United States to say I'm going to direct the Justice Department or the IRS to go after somebody. So I hope what President-elect Trump was saying is that he is not personally going to interfere with or in any way suggest to the FBI and the IRS what they should be doing. He is not going to pursue a political vendetta. Right. But I also hope he is not going to, and I can't imagine that the new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, would tolerate sending signals to the FBI or the IRS that they should not look at law breaking. If laws are broken in a serious way, whether by Secretary Clinton or her staff or her husband, then the system has an obligation to enforce the law. Sure. But the president should not follow up on a vendetta that's political.
It's interesting, Newt, while a lot of people are steamed that Donald Trump said that yesterday, the New York Post on the op-ed page today, they say they like Donald Trump's about-face on sending Hillary to jail, where he says, essentially, I want to move forward because they write, the nation's business needs doing, let's move on. So symbolically, move on past that.
But let me draw a really sharp distinction here. The President of the United States, the new President-elect, should not have a personal vendetta.
No, we understand
But he also does not have the authority to step in and say, we're going to cover up all the crimes committed by the foundation. We're going to cover up all the crimes committed by her staff.
Exactly.
We're going to ignore the facts. That would, in fact, be fully as much a violation of the rule of law as what Obama did. So I think it's very important for President-elect Trump to be very careful in this area. He can express his personal view that he doesn't want to have a vendetta, he's going forward. But I think for him to interfere and say to the FBI or the IRS or the Justice Department, you should not pay attention to law breaking, that would be a tremendous blow to the rule of law.
He hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, the Clinton Foundation is being investigated by the FBI right now anyway, unless he's going to stop it. Criminal. All right, I want to talk about what he said to the New York Times yesterday. In a way, he's backing off his view on pulling out of the Paris Treaty. He's also saying, I'm not sure about enhanced interrogation. Are you concerned at all about some reversal on some things he said on the stump so quickly with an interview with the New York Times?
Well, my impression, and this is all just newspaper reporting, my impression is that General Mattis, when they met, said to him he didn't believe in enhanced interrogation. And I think, given how tough General Mattis has been as a Marine general, the job he's done in the Middle East, I suspect that probably slowed President-elect Trump down a little bit. And, you've got to say, if this is the guy I want to have as Secretary of Defense and he doesn't believe in it, maybe I better caution and temper what I said earlier. Clearly, though, he's always going to say, when in doubt, push the envelope, go after the terrorists, do what you have to make America safe. On the Paris Treaty, I'm not sure yet exactly what all that means. The fact is, if we're going to issue the kind of reversals that President-elect Trump campaigned on in terms of saving coal as an industry, helping small towns in Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, etc. Sure. That puts a real strain on the implementation of the Paris Accords. And I suspect he will have scientists around him who are much more skeptical than the climate fanatics that Barack Obama relied on.
That's a good point. Mr. Speaker, one of the other nuggets from the New York Times interview yesterday was perhaps his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, could head up efforts to broker peace in the Middle East. What do you think about that notion?
Well, look, Jared Kushner is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. He was an absolute key to how the amazing Trump victory occurred. And he feels very passionately about trying to find a path to security and safety for the state of Israel. Whether or not that and he's obviously extraordinarily close to the president-elect.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I think they would have to get a waiver to the anti-nepotism law. That might be a little tricky, although I think if they worked at it, they could do it. Certainly, I would favor Jared Kushner's intelligence and skills being put to good use in the United States wherever he would feel committed to invest his time and his life. And having somebody with a totally fresh approach might be a good starting point in the Middle East. I also hope, talking about that, I hope that they will move the embassy to Jerusalem on the 20th of January. We've been committed to it a long time. I helped pass the bill when I was Speaker that makes it possible. And I really hope that the President-elect will keep that commitment the day he's sworn in.
Yeah, he said he would.
Mr. Speaker, can you talk to our producers? Because rather than sending us down to Mar-a-Lago, where the President-elect is, they had us here in the streets of New York City, where it's currently about 25 degrees. I think we would prefer something warmer.
But they knew how much you wanted Johnny Rockets for breakfast, and they knew how cheated you would feel if you had not had this great opportunity.
Yeah, you always side with the producers because they book you every time. Newt Gingrich, thanks so much.
Happy
Appreciate it.
Thanksgiving to you and
Happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
And go to the bookstore, pick up a Newt Gingrich book. They're everywhere. Thanks, Newt.
Thank you.